Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stephen. This is the Stephen now with another Batman 66 episode review. Today we'll be reviewing the second part in the Mad Hatter's first debut. Is Batman Stands Pat. Now let's get into it. Now, just to recap on a previous episode, the Mad Hatter is on the loose and has been kidnapping people. Essentially, and these people are the jurors that last convicted him in his last trial. And what makes it odd, he's also stealing their hats. We also get a brief glimpse into his motivation for this, not just for revenge, but he also wants to get Batman and get his precious cow. We'll find out that he is essentially a Mad Hat collector, hence the name the Mad Hatter. During one of his attempts to get Batman's cow, they go to Utah Marvel's essentially sculpting studio, when a fight breaks out, resulting in Batman being covered in what is essentially wet plaster and is now hardened. And with no way out, it seems Batman will soon die of little to no oxygen. So how is Batman gonna get out? But before we found out the answer to that, the credits then roll and we get back to where they are. Robin has been tied up to essentially a sculpted horse, and the Mad Hatter and his men are forcing Utah Marvel to essentially help, get Batman out of the plaster, where the Mad Hatter is hoping to get a sculpture of Batman's cow. But just as that's happening, Batman soon breaks away from the plaster, and the Mad Hatter attempts to knock him out with his mind control device. His super is the Mesmerizer, but it's on the blink and isn't working, so he and his men quickly make a getaway. They try to escape by the Batmobile, but because of has already been established previously in this show, with the Batmobile has a anti-theft device, they can't use it. They can't use it to, they can't essentially drive it, so they just retake their car and make a getaway. As Robin is quickly untied and wonders how the hell Batman survived this ordeal, he just simply states he simply held his breath. Yep, the Dark Knight managed to get out of that by simply holding his breath, which actually is pretty plausible. I mean, Batman would have, in more modern comics, would definitely, would do something like that, so I can actually believe that. And that's actually one of the more believable ways for Batman to actually get out of a situation like this. As soon as that happens, Batman and Robin return back to the Batcave to wonder what the hell the Mad Hatter's up to, realizing that he's kidnapped people, and also what Mad Hatter said just before, during the, in the previous episode, that he said to Batman that he will not stop until he gets Batman his 13th hat. Realizing he must be 13th, he must be after 12 other people. They then call up Commissioner Gordon and got a brief number that that according to them, the Mad Hatter has kidnapped in total 11 people. And realizing that there's 12, that he's after number 12, they then find out what comes in 12. They soon find out that 12, such as 12 men and 12 women, or 12 men and women. Batman realizes the people he's been kidnapping are the jury, the people that convicted him in his last trial. Realizing that, they then call up Commissioner Gordon to find out who else was on the jury in the Mad Hatter's last trial, and find a man named Bowie Bowinkle, who owns a bowler hat and owns a bowling alley. Yeah, like I said, you gotta understand, the show's a bit campy and silly in its own unique way. Realizing that is their unique thing, realizing that, they then come up with a plan to put a tracking device in Bowinkle's bowler hat, and hopefully, when Bowinkle gets captured, or at least when he steals his bowler hat, they can then track him to the hideout and hopefully get the rest. And hopefully get the rest of the hostages. But they're gonna need some help. And guess who they call in to help? Alfred. They essentially ask Alfred to essentially find out where Bowinkle's hat is and plant the tracking device in the hat. And just as this is happening, the Mad Hatter's henchwoman also comes in to distract Bowie Bowinkle, just as Alfred goes to put in the tracking device in the bowler hat and makes his escape. And just as he does, the Mad Hatter comes in and takes his bowler hat. And just as Mad Hatter's making his way down the stairs with the bowler hat, Bowinkle sees the Mad Hatter, and automatically a fun little conversation ensues, which I really like. which I really like between Bullwinkle and the Mad Hatter. It feels so almost threatening, and it just shows that it's just a really nice conversation. It's weird for that to be a good part of the review, but that's what I really like about it. Just the conversation there, for me, just really is interesting. And just as a scuffle between the two men ensues, the tracking device falls out of the hat. Mad Hatter realizes what's happened, but he quickly knocks out Bullwinkle with the super mesmerizing device and has his henchmen take Bullwinkle away. We then cut to a scene where he essentially is in his hat factory and is dreaming of turning Batman into, what kind of hat he can imagine, with one henchman saying the man has finally flipped his lid. But of course, Mad Hatter says, I haven't, just, trying to reassure confidence, and has now planned the ultimate trap to get Batman. Knowing that Batman doesn't know that they found about the tracking device, he plans for them to come in and they will ambush him, getting rid of Batman once and for all, and getting his cowl. And at the same time, and then when they're gone, he can then ransom off the jury to get full control, to get all the president's hats, which will be worth millions. Batman still haven't found out that their trap has soon to backfire on them. That as soon as they get to the Mad Hatter's hideout, they call the police to have all his men come over and start climbing up the wall. As soon as they get through the window, they find a bunch of dummies thinking it's the jury. Again, it's a bit silly, but it is 66. And just as the lights go on, they are surrounded by the Mad Hatter and all his men. And the nice conversation they have is really intimate. Is really well written for me. It really is. The Mad Hatter reveals what he wants. He wants Batman to take off his cowl, hand it over. He'll then take a photograph of him for the world to see, and then he'll take him on and the final destination will be on a personally conducted tour of his hat factory. The Batman is not willing to give his cowl up so easily, so they decide they'll just give him a tour of the hat factory instead. And just as they're about to let in, they find Lisa, the woman who's been helping out the Mad Hatter all the time, and they recognize her from Magnus Solane's hat salon. The one of the victims that were kidnapped in the previous episode. Realizing this, Batman then starts one big fight with the Mad Hatter and his henchmen. And I just like how it was just well choreographed. Now, I've never really mentioned much of the fight scenes in these episodes, but for me, the fight scene here is absolutely fantastic. Well choreographed, really intense. And I just do like how you can see the Mad Hatter is fully lost it. He really wants to get Batman's cowl at any cost. It's really all that great. And then it goes from one room into the hat factory. The henchman gets knocked out and Mad Hatter gets kicked into this acid. You think he died, but no, he actually survived. It designs to shrink, so he's essentially shrunk. They then arrest Lisa, and she reveals where the hostages are. The police come in, and the Batman has said that the Mad Hatter and his schemes have been concocted into a top hat. The episode then ends with Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, and Aunt Harriet at Murden's hat salon essentially buying Aunt Harriet a hat. And just as they leave, Batman just stops for a moment. Dick asks why, and he says, I could have sworn I was wearing a hat when I came in. A nice little pun, and ends the episode perfectly, saying that next week, Batman and Robin will tangle with the Joker. Again, we have pretty much all the characters. Again, Chief O'Hara and Commissioner Gordon just turn out for fun. And then Harry does have a little nice scene at the end of the episode, which is just all around fun. What was surprising for me is Alfred playing a bit of a role. Again, Alfred would sometimes play a bit big of a role in the episodes that go on in the show, which I really like how he's used as undercover work in this episode. Batman and Robin and Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson here are done as excellent as well. Also like how, even though on the brink of death, Batman still refuses to give up his cowl. And there's many reasons why. A, to protect his identity. B, it's also a symbol. And with that gone, he's breaking that symbol. Again, it's a possibility that you could point out, but I really like it. And of course, just the overall, you can really tell the Batman, and also in this episode, Batman can't believe that he was so blinded that he couldn't have figured out that Mad Hatter was after the jury. And it just goes to show that this Batman, though he is a detective, he's not always perfect. He is still human, which I really like about it. And it really just shows. Even though, and Dick tries to tell him that, and, Robin tries to tell him that, you can't be everywhere. It's okay to not be right all the time. And it's a really good, interesting message, I find. David Wayne as the Mad Hatter is still great, just like he was in the previous episode. Also like how people comment on him being mad, more mad in this episode, his henchman, than in the other episode, and just how desperate he is for that hat, and how he can easily adapt to any situation. And that fight, just that fight, last desperate effort to get that cow, really just shows how far he was going to go. This episode really gave us arguably one of the most memorable villains of the show for me, and he's usually in many people's top 10, especially with mine. I just overall just love the look of the character, and just the overall how mad and eccentric this guy is. He's definitely still there with a great performance in the previous one, and he always will be. Batman Stands Pat is another good episode that follows the other half really well. I also like how Batman finally figures out what the Mad Hatter has been doing, and it makes more and he finally puts the pieces together rather than him just wondering why is he kidnapping random people. And again, what also makes it is the fight choreography at the end of the episode. For me, this has arguably the best fight scene in the entire series. It's well choreographed, well paced, the music just feels intense, and I just like how they really are using Batman and Robin are using everything around them to take them down. And I just like how it's just building and building and building and building. And again, and also when you get close-ups of the Mad Hatter essentially trying to strangle Batman and Robin, you can clearly see the guy is more of his rocker. And there we have it, Batman Stands Pat, a really great episode. Along with the 13th Hat, for me, these two-parters are some of my favorite episodes in the series. Definitely in top 10. Like I said, at the end of this episode reviewing series, I'll do my personal top 10 episodes. For me, this is a really great episode. I highly recommend watching this two-parter. So far, with these episodes, I've not yet been disappointed. And I don't think in Season 1, you can't really find really disappointing episodes, in my opinion. They're all really fun. And join us next time as we review the next episode, The Joker Goes to School. In the episode, The Joker Goes to School, with the Joker again returning. So until then, tune in for that next review on the same Steven time, same Steven channel, and so long for now.